everybody. Welcome to Hallmarkies podcast. And we are really excited today because we are here to make it after all. We're here talking about Mary Tyler Moore Show. And we are talking about season 2. We already did our sort of retrospective of season 1. I guess it was last year. It seems
Yeah.
like it was a million years ago. But anyway, we did it. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Bree's here.
Hello, everyone. I am the Rhoda to
Yeah.
our Rachel's Mary. I think we did it, and then the Christmas was starting, so we were just kind of like,
Yeah.
"Well, it'll be a while before we get
Yeah.
to season 2."
Yeah. And we had a pretty good response to it. There were quite a few comments, people talking about it. People love the show. It still holds up very
Yeah, it
well.
does. It's so
Uh,
rewatchable. Like as soon as
yeah.
when we recorded the last time, that was my first time ever watching it, and I immediately started watching it again. It's like so rewatchable.
Yeah.
What do you think it
Yeah.
is? What do you think it is?
I think it's just, I always say funny saves all. And it's
Yeah.
just a really funny show. And so it holds up because like things that I think don't hold up so well is when shows are like super topical or really trendy. Like you have things like for example, in like Ralph Breaks the Internet, like
Mhm.
that had a lot of jokes that were very specific to that year that it was released, like 2019, 2018. They had jokes about YouTubers and jokes about, and I enjoy that film, but it's not one that in even maybe 20 years that people are necessarily going to enjoy because it's
Yeah.
also topical. And I think that comedy, when it's timeless, it's just like commenting on human behavior. Like anybody, whatever time period you're in, can relate to Mary's struggles, having a job, being like anxious, uncomfortable, her dating trials, things like that are things that no matter the era, they can relate to. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. I think I immediately started rewatching it again because I just love the found family and the
Yeah.
community. I just it just hits so perfectly. I don't
Yeah.
know. The comedy, like you said, is amazing, but it's just like I want to hang out with Mary and Mr. Grant.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, so we each picked well, I only had two from you. So I don't know the other two or if you had additional,
I
but
only ended up with three. I ended up with
three.
three.
Okay,
Yeah.
three. So you have three, I have four episodes that we're going to talk about. And I don't necessarily have these in order of preference.
Yeah.
They're just four that I thought were funny. So I watched 6 out of 7 that we're going to talk about, and I've seen
Okay.
them all, but just last night I watched them, and so it's going to be fun to talk about them. And we want to hear from the listeners, what are your favorite episodes from season 2 of the Mary Tyler Moore Show? Which ones do you go back to? Do you watch? Do you rewatch? And what do you think about the show makes it and what do you think about the show that makes it timeless and it work for any generation or group of people? So let's dive in. So the first one that I have is the bird and bees. And one thing that's interesting about season 2 is you could definitely feel them leaning into Phyllis this
Yeah.
season. She
Yeah.
must
Yeah.
have had a very good, and why wouldn't she's hilarious? But they must have had a big response about Phyllis.
She
Eh,
is hilarious.
yeah.
She's a mess.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was gonna ask, like, what do you feel like? Do you feel like there's a big difference between season one and season two, besides the like the background of the theme song changing? At first,
Yes.
first season we see her having the going away party, and like in second season, it's literally just like little moments throughout the show. But like, what do you think? Do you think there's a big difference in the vibe?
Um I I don't think there's a big difference, but there are little changes. And like I said, I think that we do get a lot more of Phyllis and a lot more of Rhoda
Yeah.
in this season than we did in season 1.
Yeah, I
To have
agree.
whole arcs. We get to meet Rhoda's mother, different things like that. And it was interesting on the IMDb for this episode, because this was the first episode. They have some trivia that I thought was interesting. And it says that if you look carefully in the new show open, the clip of Phyllis and Mary is clearly an outtake. Both Mary Tyler Moore and Cloris Leachman break the fourth wall and look towards the audience laughing. So that was, I didn't really notice that, but I
Oh.
thought it was interesting. And they also got rid of the clip of Mary with like a fur that was in the
Mhm.
first season because of Mary Tyler Moore's uh, animal rights
Oh
activist,
yeah.
feelings.
Okay.
So that was a change also. And then there's actually changes. This was interesting. I wouldn't have noticed this, but there's some changes to Mary's apartment in this.
Oh yeah. It goes from
Yeah.
like a sliding door, I think, to just doors you can open. Yeah.
Yeah, the window to her balcony has been replaced by double doors and a second set of steps from the upper living area to the lower living room has been carved out of the bookcase close to the fireplace.
Love
Eh,
that.
and I mean, Mary's apartment is of course iconic, but it's just always been interesting to me to see it and to think how could a woman sleep on a sofa bed as her permanent bed? Like,
I think about that all the time. I think about, and one of my episodes, she's trying to go to bed and then Rhoda shows up. And I'm like, in the last episode I watched,
oh,
Rhoda was like laying across the couch while Mary was stitching and eating peanuts. And I'm like, people sit on that couch all the time, and then that becomes your bed. But
yeah.
I mean, I guess it's like a loft apartment. Right? Think of
Well,
Rhoda's apartment. Like, I need somebody to explain that to us.
well, those sofa beds are so uncomfortable,
Yeah.
and uh, that it's like, how could you possibly sleep on that? Yeah, and I don't think any of the episodes that I watched show Rhoda's apartment. But yeah, it's this little attic apartment, which is the
Yeah.
whole when she was first introduced, that she wanted Mary's apartment. And that's really like such a this would be upper Midwest, but it's such a Midwest thing to have these in houses that have been turned into like 4 or 5 apartments.
Yeah, so true. So
Yeah.
true.
Like in Indianapolis, they didn't have that many like skyscraper apartment buildings kind of things. There were a couple, but almost almost all of them were houses. You could tell that they were like relatively nice developments in their day and age that have gotten worn down and now were like 4 or 5 apartments.
Yeah, somebody with money came in and renovated them, and yep,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
so true.
Hmm.
Ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
But yeah, and then they said in season 1, the small decorative triangles of glass in the large windows of Mary's apartment alternated between green and purple, where starting with this episode, they are now clear. Also in season 1, the office desks at WJM were beige, whereas starting with this episode, they are now blue,
Okay. Oh, look
which
at
I thought was
that.
interesting.
Yeah, that's cool.
I love people that notice these kinds of things. They make my job as a
So
podcaster
much
much
easier.
easier.
Keep them coming, guys. Keep them
Yes.
coming.
Yeah. So this episode aired on September 18th, 1971, and it's Mary agrees to explain the facts of life to Phyllis's daughter Bess. And this was director Jay Sandrich, who I think directed every single one of these episodes that I watched. he was like a legend, and well, I don't know if he's still with us, but anyway, he's was an incredible director. Let me see if he I'm looking him up. Yeah, so he passed away in 2021. So Jay Sanders, he was an incredible director of television. And you see him in particularly Mary Tyler Moore Show and The Cosby Show,
Oh,
were
wow. Okay.
his big, that he did, and then also some Golden Girls, some so he's incredible. Uh what do you think about this episode? The birds and bees. Bess.
I I think like you said, like in this season we see more of Phyllis and she is just hilarious because she wants to be like this superwoman, but then also like she does kind of I thought it was interesting that she leaned on Mary for this and she'll like want her friends to help and then it's almost like she takes it back,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is it's so funny. But I love Bess. I wish Bess and Phyllis would have stayed like for like longevity. Like I'm always like, what would Bess be doing, you know?
Uh-huh. Well, yeah. And how old do you think did they I forgot to write down if they said how old Bess is supposed to be in this with like 12?
Oh god, I think she's like 12, yeah.
12, yeah, 12.
12 or 13 maybe.
Yeah. But there's so many funny lines. I think that you would now consider Phyllis to be kind of like a hipster.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Oh
she
yeah.
like plays the part. She wants all the, everybody to think she's the NPR listening things, things kind of thing.
Yes.
But in reality, she's as base as anyone else. She so she so Mary has done this documentary. The what did they call it? What's your sexual IQ? To this documentary. They're trying to get controversy, I guess, at at the newsroom.
Newsstand.
Yeah. and and so Bess watched it, and of course she says, I never censor what Bess watches. you
Of
know,
course you don't, Phyllis.
right.
Of
Yeah.
course you don't.
And I love the scene. It's just like a little scene where Mary takes a break in Lou's office, and he's like, "What are you doing? What are you in my office?" Like, she's like, "Sorry," but that was really funny. You don't take a break at my office.
In my office, I know.
That was funny. I also like the fact that Ted's like very insulted that they didn't use him for the documentary on sexual IQ. Because I feel like Ted Baxter is probably pretty good in the sack.
Yeah,
You know
I
what I mean?
think, you
Yeah.
know, he catches a lot of slack like in the newsroom, but I feel like there's gotta be a very shocking side to
Yeah.
Ted.
Yeah. Yeah,
And that
definitely.
would probably be it.
Yes. And one of the funny things this season is so Phyllis and Rhoda do not like each other. Because the thing
No.
with so Phyllis is a hipster, whereas Rhoda is actually a legit hippie person. Like she's an actual legit alternative thinking, somebody who's open. So like, of course, Phyllis is threatened by somebody who's legitimate at the thing she's pretending to be, and then Rhoda hates somebody who's a phony. So the two of them are going to come at odds, and they are very funny together.
They bump heads. It's almost like somebody said this one time, and I can't stop thinking about it. Like with in Sex in the City, somebody was like, Charlotte and Samantha are essentially the same person. And sometimes I feel like Rhoda and Phyllis are kind of
Yeah.
like Rhoda literally wants Phyllis's life. Rhoda is Mary doesn't want to get married. She never really talks about it. She's
Yeah.
fine working and dating and being a single girl. Whereas like that's what Rhoda wants. And like Phyllis
True.
has the husband and the daughter, you know? And I think that sometimes like Phyllis secretly aspires to be a Rhoda, you
Well,
know?
that's
But
because Rhoda is doing what she's trying to do, but is authentic at it. So she's
yeah.
threatened by that. And the same really with Rhoda, that she just sees Phyllis's phoniness, and she can't help but bring it out, which
Yeah.
causes conflict. Yeah, it's really, really funny. I love when Phyllis says to Mary, "We really like each other, except as people."
Oh
That's
gosh. Plus, I
really,
mean,
really
Rhoda's like she's got that tough New York girl, aesthetic going
Uh-huh.
on. Like she's not gonna let Phyllis just get away with anything. It's just
Yeah.
perfect. It's perfect.
Well, so now she's concerned about telling Bess about the birds and the bees, the facts of life. And Rhoda says, I could tell her. And Phyllis is like, I don't think she needs to learn all that. It's
Which
really
it's
funny.
interesting because it's like we I feel like Mary probably gets more action than Rhoda.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
feel like Rhoda
definitely.
wants it so bad, but we
Yeah.
don't actually see Rhoda with a lot of guys
Well,
like that.
Rhoda's really insecure. And one of the weird things, we'll talk about this in another episode, but they make quite a few jokes about Rhoda needing to lose weight, which
Yeah, I think you
is
talked about that in our first one
bonkers.
too.
That,
Yeah.
I mean, Valerie Harper is not plus size by any stretch of the
Any
imagination.
freaking means.
And so that is definitely something that the show, I guess if you were going to say a not timeless quality, that would be that they Rhoda is very insecure about her appearance, and it's treated as almost like a given that of course, yeah, Rhoda needs to lose weight. She's not attractive.
It's
And
like
then
Lucy in I Love Lucy, like Ethel
yeah,
Mertz is, Lucy's like this stick figure. And then you have the more shapely, not even big girl, but just a woman with a shape. You have Ethel
yeah.
Mertz next to her.
Yeah, exactly. Well, one of my favorite scenes like ever in the whole show is this in this in this when they're about to tell Bess and Phyllis is like this big emotional moment and she tries to cry and she can't do it and Mary says, "Don't feel called upon to cry." Just love that scene. It's so funny. That's
Oh,
right.
I love Phyllis. I
Yeah.
love her.
So in the end, Bess already knows about sex. She's
Of
already up on the,
course.
of course she does, living in that house, and but she doesn't know about love. She's separating
Yeah.
sex and love. I think, and Mary tells her, that there's the love is like another dimension. Basically, it's added, it's even more, and you should never feel compelled to have sex with somebody that you ever, and uh the that it can be a beautiful part of a relationship, basically is what she says. And Rhoda says, I think you just changed my life.
Oh my
I mean,
gosh.
you're a mom of teens. Was this a situation that you could kind of connect with, relate to?
Oh yeah, it's been I didn't gosh, I mean, I didn't rewatch that episode
Yeah.
for this, but I remember when I started rewatching season 2, I was just like, man, like I feel like that was such a very real question to ask, And
Yeah.
I was like, and for her to be like, well, I already know about that. It's like, yeah, she's a tween, a teenager. They do already know about it. Sorry,
Yeah.
guys. But I do think that there is that confusion of like, do these two things connect at all? So I think that was just I loved that scene. And I
Yeah.
was really excited actually that she asked Mary to do it.
Yeah. This is a very funny great way to start off season 2.
Yeah.
Hey, this is David from the Piecing It Together podcast, a podcast about movies and the movies that inspire them. For over 4 years each week, a guest and I take a look at a new movie through the lens of what other movies we think were either an influence or connect in some other way. It's a fun, unique way to discuss films that leads to a great list of other movies to check out that either explore the same themes and ideas or maybe utilize similar filmmaking techniques. Including special episodes in our side series that twist the format, we've done over 200 episodes, so there's bound to be one on a film you've been thinking about and want to dig deeper into. So check us out on all the major podcasting apps and at piecingpod.com.
So my first one is episode 7, Didn't You Used to Be Wait, Don't Tell Me? And this is the episode where Mary has she gets an invite from her high school reunion. And what's funny to me at first is that she asks Murray, like, how do you think I should go about asking? And he's like, just tell them you want to call in sick. And she's like, oh, I think it's unethical to ask for a sick day if you're not really sick.
Yeah.
And then so Mr. Grant shows up and she gives him this crazy story about like, there's a school a couple hours away that's doing a reunion. I think we should cover it. And he was like, no, like nobody cares. And then he comes back and he's like, is this the school that you graduated from? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, why don't you just do what I do? Why don't you just call in sick? And so she ends up like calling in sick. Rhoda's there. And she calls back because, of course, Mary, she feels bad for lying to Mr. Grant. She's like, sorry, I'm not really sick, but I'm doing what you told me. Like, I'm calling in sick. And they go to her high school reunion. And of course, like, there's the girl that obviously has always been jealous of Mary winning everything that's like running the show. And there's the guy, Howard Arnell, who I guess she
Yeah.
dated. I think he was like 3 years ahead of them. And this guy is like so handsome, but he is such a dweeb. He's so
Yeah, he's so
annoying. He has a hole
clingy.
in his sock. And what was funny to me, he's so clingy, like, Mayor, I'm over here. And like, what is funny to me is like everybody, she introduces Rhoda and everybody's like, Rhoda, I remember you. And clearly, like, Rhoda did not go to school with Mary at all.
Yeah, she plays the part.
So I don't know. I just thought it was, she plays the part.
Yeah.
But I think the lead, like the build up to that was what got me with Mary. I connected with her because like I am someone that too struggles with calling off of work.
No, yeah. Yeah,
And
this
people,
one I didn't get a chance to rewatch this one, but it is very funny. And Mary's reaction to Howard and his clinging is very funny, and you get to see some competitiveness between Rhoda and Mary, and all that. It's a very fun episode. There's some fun trivia on IMDb about it. It says that Jay Sandrich and Pippa Scott, who plays the other woman in at the reunion, are respectively the children of film director Mark Sandrich and screenwriter Alan Scott, who worked on 10 projects together, among them the 4 Astaire Rogers movies. So they're siblings, Jay Sandrich, the director, and Pippa Scott. So that's interesting. And then according to this episode, Mary is a 1959 graduate of Leif Erikson High, located in the fictional town of Roseburg in upstate Minnesota. She was a Viking queen. She was a Viking queen. And then Richard Scaal, whose character Howard Arnell proposes to Mary Richards at the high school reunion, was at the time the real life husband of Valerie Harper, whose character Rhoda Morgenstern joined Mary at the reunion. Rhoda was not in the scene, but Harper, who first met Mary Tyler Moore in 1966 on the set of Dick Van Dyke Show during an episode in which Scaal appeared, was almost certainly on set. So that's kind of interesting. That was interesting.
That is cool. Yeah, I really connected with Mary because I feel like for so many years, and I'm still trying to get better at this, of just being like, it's okay. I think it just captures what it's like to be a woman in the workplace who just wants to take a day off for something that's not a doctor's appointment. Like how uncomfortable that can be. I was like, I so feel her on that. I thought that was just, I don't know. I like how sometimes they do kind of like just regular workplace antics of like, I want to go to a high school reunion, but I'm afraid to ask off for it kind of thing.
Yeah. And there's some funny set pieces, like when everybody has to take off their shoes at the reunion. Like that's very funny. It reminds me of the episode where Carrie has to take off her shoes and in Sex and the City, and then somebody steals her shoes, and then the party planner refuses to take responsibility. That's a really iconic episode of that show. But so that is this episode. Okay, so then the next one for me is called Square Shaped Room, and I do tend to, I think, favor Lou heavy episodes because Ed Asner is just so funny in this role, so good. And
you know what I have to say, on my second rewatch, I've just like, or my rewatch, I'm like, I agree with you. I want Mr. Grant in like every episode.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically Lou is letting his wife redecorate the house because she's trying to keep her happy. And Mary hears this and she suggests Rhoda as the designer because Rhoda's a window designer on the show, and that she would be a great designer for Lou's house. And it is interesting because you would think that that would be a pretty good fit because Lou and Rhoda have kind of similar personalities. They're both sort of kind of gritty and just kind of tell it like they see it, personalities. But it goes completely backwards. It's terrible.
Yeah. Again, look at Rhoda's apartment. It's literally pink.
Yeah. Didn't think this one through. And surprisingly, Ted, surprisingly, Lou says that he likes it when he's first presented with this white room crazy, thing. And that did seem kind of like against his character to actually, he's just not a fake it kind of guy,
No. No.
So you knew he really hated it if he was saying that he liked it. And I can't live here in this room. And then Mary says, "It's not you," and he says, "It's not everyone." And I love also the line. There's a painting with a 5 on it, and he says, "I bet you went through 4 other paintings to get to that one." So this one just it has a lot of laughs. It's very funny. I also like Ted coming at the beginning that he's been a guest on Meet My Pet.
Oh yeah,
that made me laugh. So yeah, this one's just a good one for laughs. So.
My next one is episode 9, and it's now sitting in for Ted Baxter, and it's actually one I kind of forgot about, and then I rewatched it, and I was like, oh, this one kind of gave me all the feels. So Mary at the beginning she has been going through some records, and she learns that Ted, who has worked at the station for 4 years, has not taken vacation the entire time that he's been there. And she's like, we are breaking like all types of his union contract rules and things like that. And so Mr. Grant is like, okay, go tell him, like with this smug look on his face. And you as the viewer are like, what is he up to? And Mary goes to Ted, and he is completely ignoring her. He does not want to talk about having time off. And so then she goes back to Mr. Grant, and he says, if you were Ted Baxter, did the news the way he does, would you leave? Believe me, nobody needs Ted's vacation more than I do. And so we're like, okay, this is Ted. He doesn't want to take time off. And I think even though it's still early into season 2, we kind of get the feel of like this job means a lot to Ted. I think he knows he may not be the best at it, but you immediately pick up on he doesn't want somebody coming in and standing for him. I think like there's a scene where they kind of zoom in on his face after Mary's like, you have to take the time off, basically, where you can just see they're going to get somebody in here, he's going to do good, and like me coming back is going to be up for question. Like it's this really vulnerable, insecure moment, and I really like that they kind of, even though it's surrounded by comedy, like they gave us these vulnerable moments, especially with him. And so this guy gets called in, I think his name's like Rod Porter or something, and he's so handsome, and he does such a good job. And Ted tells them that he's at like Acapulco or something, and Mary and Murray learn eventually, like, Mary's like, he sent this from Minneapolis, like, he's not actually on vacation.
Yeah, that's very funny.
And I mean, even Rhoda is like, who is this guy? He's so dreamy. Why have you been keeping him from, like, he is the perfect news anchor man. But then Mary and Murray have this conversation where they're both like, but I miss Ted. And the way that it ends is perfect. Perfect television sitcom. The
Yeah.
guy that steps in for Ted gets hired by some big national news place in New York City. And so you're like proud of him, but you're happy because Ted gets his job back. And then Ted's like, well, that was a real bust. If I would have been here doing my job, they would have seen me and I would have got the job. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, Dad.
I think they know just how far they can push the Ted character. Well, all the characters. I think they know like
Yeah.
they have to keep Ted like to a certain degree likable. They can't make him that they can't make him they have to make him just cocky enough. Like just but still like uh just kind of blissfully unaware is kind of how they have to play it.
Oh, yeah,
Uh,
that's so perfectly said. Yeah.
yeah.
He's so blissfully
That one is
unaware.
very funny. Okay, so my next episode is called Phoebe. And this one,
Oh, this is a good one, Rachel.
it's a very good one. If you like Mary Tyler Moore episodes where she is insecure and awkward, this is a really good one. And basically, they go at the beginning of the episode, they go to this restaurant and they have absolutely terrible service. This waitress is horrible. And she makes a comment to the boss at the restaurant about it as they're leaving. And then she feels very guilty about it. And then this waitress ends up applying for a secretarial job and she hires her because she feels like, oh, I'm the one that got you fired from the waitressing job. And so that leads to all kinds of awkward interactions. It's very funny. And I love at the beginning when they're at this terrible restaurant. Lou says, I would never order a hamburger patty and cottage cheese. I don't even like saying cottage cheese. That made me laugh really hard. She is a very terrible waitress and she gets all their orders wrong. She's just kind of like flinging it there. She's not listening. She's really bad. And
Mary orders a cake, and then the girl later on is like, oh, I'm sorry, I ate it.
yeah. They're like, I could put it on a Danish.
Yeah.
Like,
And I
oh.
love that you put this one on the list because I feel like if you've never watched Mary, I feel like it's a good beginner episode because it shows a lot about Mary, like what she is a really good person. And especially when she learns that the girl has a kid, like
Yeah.
they've interviewed all these other wonderful people for this position, like in their house, in their job. Like the girl before Phoebe should have totally got the job. But Mary learns that this woman is a single mom and she feels guilty for getting her fired. I think it just shows a lot about Mary as a character, but it's one of those uncomfortable episodes to watch.
Yeah.
But I think they handle that so well. They dip into the uncomfortability so well.
Yeah. Well, what makes it uncomfortable, not only that this woman is terrible at her job, they have this term Phoebe, which is a way of saying like you're a loser. Like you just are bad at things. You're Phoebe.
Thanks, Rhoda.
Yeah. Or Phoebe. And the thing that's funny is that Lou is quite taken with this. He doesn't realize it's the same way. It's the waitress girl. And he's like taking her to lunch and stuff, which that could be uncomfortable, especially in a modern setting. A married man boss, thing, taking this woman. But he's feeling thrilled because he thinks she's pretty, but also because Mary's doing all of the work and checking and correcting and making sure it's right. And Mr. Grant thinks so. Lou thinks that Mary's jealous of this girl, and when she says something about the bad work and everything like that, oh, you're jealous, and then once he realizes that no, she's right, he says it's embarrassing to fire someone on the same day you gave her a raise. He was going to give her a raise. And I also liked when he says to Mary, he says, those are the words of a bad firer. Because she can't stand firing anyone.
No.
Very funny. Very, 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 very funny. So yeah, that one's a good one. What do you have next?
My next one was episode 10, Don't Break the Chain. And again, it starts off with, I guess, Rhoda checks her and Mary's mail a lot. So Rhoda brings in Mary's mail, and Mary has gotten, I guess, chain letters were going around at the time. And Mary's like, yeah, I'm not interested. I don't believe in it. And Rhoda's pretty much like, yeah, well, if you don't do it, you can lose your job because your boss is the one that sent it. And so she goes to work, and she's trying to like go get this list of names because I think you have to send it to like 17 people, but Murray's already beat her to the punch. And so he's like, I'll give you one name off the list and the rest is kind of you on your own. So one of the people that she ends up sending him to is this guy named Armand Linton. And he comes and like thanks her in person at the office.
Uh-huh.
And he's newly separated. And all he keeps talking about, you can just tell he like wants to kind of be out and about. He wants to make friends, and he's a bachelor now, but he's constantly bringing up his ex-wife.
Well, we met him last season. That when Rhoda goes on Mary has a party and she brings a date, Rhoda, and it turns out the date brings his wife.
Yeah.
Remember that episode? And
he says he's like, I don't recognize you without my wife.
Now you're somebody who is separated. Like, could you connect at all with that feeling of like, oh, why do I keep talking about my ex? Or any of the dynamics kind of going on here?
Yeah, I got it with the whole like you want to kind of be out in the world now by yourself and see how that feels, and like you want to make friends and go to parties, but also like so much of your life has been with somebody else. And so he's constantly like, yeah, but she took all the dishes, or just like,
yeah,
you can still see it's so fresh. And that's how I was like, I do really like connect with him on that level. And then he wants to take Mary out, but then Rhoda is into him. And so they're in the kitchen, and she's like, Mary, you got to be the only girl in the world who can send out a chain letter and win a man. And she eventually is just like, I'm going to do something I've never done, kid. She's like, I'm going to take him from you. And Mary's like, go ahead. I'll help you.
Yeah, right.
And then even that plan derails because the salesman guy shows up. Because Mary sent him a letter, and he wants to thank her in person. And it was just this moment of like, Mary does not have to work hard to get guys, and she's actually really not that interested. And kind of going back to our conversation about her and Rhoda wants a man so bad. Like, she wants a relationship, and it just kind of happens flawlessly for Mary.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just thought it was like a really funny episode that kind of shows, I guess, like how easy it is for one versus the other, and like the one that it's so easy for isn't even really that interested.
Yeah, that's true. Like in life, like it's just some people just have that gift. They are able to that charisma. Yeah, I certainly don't. That's for sure. But I love
I think
this
it's
whole
such a normal thing in friendship.
Yeah. I love this whole scene between Mary and Lou when he says, you don't like having to be nice. That's what Mary says. And then Lou says, when I hear words like, can you get off any earlier? That's not getting rid of someone, Mary.
That's building a life together.
Yeah, that's planning a life together.
I literally recorded that scene on my phone, and I just like lay in bed and rewatching it. He's like, really no, funny. Mary, no. He's like, if you want to get rid of somebody, you say, get out of here.
Because what she tried to do, because they used to send out these chain letters, and it would say that you'll get $25,000 if you don't break the chain. The idea that you're supposed to send $1 to the first person on the list, and then you bump everybody up one, and everybody else sends the $1, and you keep doing it until supposedly you get all this money. And of course, they didn't work. And what Mary's trying to do is, because people are disgusted when she throws the chain letter in the garbage, she's trying to find the people that she doesn't care will be irritated, like nobody that she actually cares about their opinion. So she sends it to like all these random people she has in her phone book, and including Armand. And but when people get it, they're like, oh, I'm so flattered. I got a chain letter. And so it just leads for some funny interactions. Definitely. Yeah.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies.
Well, my last one that I have is called Thoroughly Unmilitant Mary.
Oh, yeah.
This is another one that brings in a lot of Mary's insecurities because Lou brings her and says, just a reminder that you and I are management. And she's like, what? Oh, and because there's a strike with the news writers that's going to then affect Gordy and Murray, and then the on-screen presence, that union ends up also striking. And so Ted's out. Of course, he hates that. And so Mary having to cross the picket line to get to work, and it's very funny. Plus, you get to see Lou being very nervous, which is funny.
Yeah, I love the strike episode.
Yeah, it's really good. And Rhoda says, you are the first management I've ever socialized with. Poor Mary. Yeah. And Ted improvising because Murray's not there to write is very funny. And
oh my gosh.
I loved the whole bit of, have you ever felt clamming your hands in this? It's like putting his hands, you believe? And then I also love when he says, Mary, you wrote the world's longest sentence. A tidal wave is interesting all in and of itself, doesn't need your help.
So good. It's so good.
That was hilarious. It was hilarious. And I don't know if it's this episode, but both Valerie Harper and Ed Asner both won Emmys this year for their work on the show, and they really are just hilarious. So funny.
They are so good.
Yeah.
My last one was the 5-minute dress, which is this gorgeous long black dress towards the end, which has a scene with old Phyllis. That is hilarious. But she sees how community-minded most of her friends are, including Lou, Murray, Ted, and Phyllis. So Mary starts feeling guilty about how she's spending her free time, and she wants to get involved in some sort of community group. So Phyllis recommends she go to a Women for Better Government group meeting. And she does it because she doesn't want her new community mindedness to be turned off to a quest for finding a man. Yeah. And despite that, Rhoda tags along. Mary's no man plans are kind of thwarted when the one and only man at the meeting, who is the governor's assistant, is attracted to her. And so, again, just flawlessly, effortlessly happens for old Mary. But this guy, kind of ghosts her the entire episode. Yeah. And then the one time that he doesn't ghost her, duty calls kind of thing. And so that was the 5-minute dress. She actually gets dressed. He shows up to pick her up. He is outside, and they get around the corner, and 15. She comes back into the apartment, and she's like, the governor called.
Yeah.
But my favorite moment is with Phyllis. Phyllis loans her these beautiful earrings, and so Mary's putting them on, and Phyllis is going on and on about how important they are to her family, and they've been passed down generation to generation. And you just see Mary quietly take them off and give them back to Phyllis, and Phyllis is like, oh my God, thank you so much, Mary.
That is good. Yeah, there are a lot of funny lines in this one. I when she hears all of the civic stuff that everybody's doing, and she says that I have one thing planned today. Tonight, I am washing my hair. That's the only thing. And then Murray says, I give up all my activities, and washing my hair took the whole evening. He's balding. That's funny. And Phyllis says to Mary, you make the time, Mary, if you're a concerned citizen." But like the truth is that everybody has to pick. Nobody can do everything. Like I've picked community theater, obviously, sort of my thing. And another person will have, a totally different cause to champion. Everybody has their things, but this is the episode that Phyllis makes a dig at Rhoda's weight, which I just think is very interesting. And you see that throughout the show. That Rhoda, and there's even an episode. I don't know if it's in season 7 where Rhoda loses weight and she ends up entering a pageant and winning the pageant, and it's like, oh, she's finally beautiful. It's like, no, she was beautiful all along, you crazies. But that was the thing for the show. It's very interesting. And but yeah, this guy, he keeps canceling, and finally the last date only lasts 5 minutes. And I did love, there's this whole thing about supposedly Ted is entertaining the troops with his ventriloquism, his puppets. And it was so funny at the end when he's got the dog puppet, he's doing his thing in the newsroom, and Lou comes in and says to the puppet, "You're hired."
Yeah. Well, I can't remember exactly what Mary says, but they ask her at the end, they're like, well, would you see him again? And she's like, no, if you see the way that he's treating me when he's actually trying to see me, imagine if he was actually trying to avoid me.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. She's pretty right.
Yeah. So that is a very funny episode. I think these are very good ones. Let us know what you think about season 2. What are some of your favorites? What do you think about these episodes? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section or on Twitter. And if you like us doing these, of course, there's 7 seasons, so there's lots more that we could do. And I am film critic Rachel Wagner. You can find me all over the place, Rachel's Reviews online. And Bree, where can people find you?
I am at Bree unabashedly on the social medias, and occasionally the Categorically Romance podcast.
Great. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews, and make sure that you're following us at Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. And if you're listening on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We'd really appreciate it. We also have our Patreon group, which is the biggest way you can support everything we're doing. And we have our merch store where you can get all kinds of fun designs. So check that out. And thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.